This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much for waking up bright and early with us here on WKYT. I'm Andrea Walker.
I'm Bill Bryant. It is Friday, October 7th. A lot going on. Of course, all eyes this morning focused on Florida. Hurricane Matthew is closing in on the Sunshine State. Behind us, you can right now see where the storm is located, just off Florida's east coast. That's the WKYT First Alert Defender radar. The storm was downgraded to a Category 3 storm overnight.
The monster storm leaves behind a path of devastation in the Caribbean. Haiti is one of the island's hardest hit. Reports say more than 300 people are reported dead, and officials expect that toll to rise. President Obama has issued states of emergency for 3 states in the southeast now, including Florida and the Carolinas. And CBS's Marley Hall is going to be updating us on the situation live from Orlando, Florida this morning, as Hurricane Matthew is about to cause big problems in the Sunshine State. Marley?
Matthew is expected to come ashore or very close to it later today, and the Florida coast is bracing for a long day of punishing wind, rain, and storm surge. Overnight, the outer bands of Hurricane Matthew began pummeling the Florida coast with unrelenting rain and roaring winds. The storm surge from the Category 3 storm sent boats in this harbor rocking side to side.
It's really quite a sight.
Storm shutters were ripped off the front of businesses in West Palm Beach. In Daytona Beach, police were left patrolling empty streets as most residents listened to evacuation warnings.
We can rebuild homes, we can rebuild businesses. I just think of my own family, we can't rebuild a life. This storm's a monster.
Some people living on the coast who couldn't get out of town sought safety in Red Cross shelters. This one inside a school cafeteria.
They were either at mobile homes or at vulnerable places. They're heeding the call from the authorities.
Conditions here in Orlando will intensify over the next few hours. Matthew is expected to slam Florida all day with hurricane-force winds and then turn towards Georgia. The state joined Florida in ordering mandatory evacuations, reversing a lane of traffic on this highway yesterday to accommodate the exodus. South Carolina did the same as this beach bar stayed open for one last party.
We're closed after tonight. We should be good after that.
Matthew is expected to move out to sea this weekend. The last Category 3 storm or higher to hit the U.S. was Wilma back in 2005. It killed 5 people. Back to you.
Okay, certainly a lot to watch, and we're doing that, and Mike is tracking that and our local weather as well.
Yeah, and our local weather won't be directly impacted by this, but we are still looking at a big cold front this weekend, but the focus is still on Matthew and everything that you watch and see. I mean, you pick up your phone and you're getting texts from family members that aren't even close to Florida talking about Matthew. So here's the look right now. It's just off the coast, just about 50 miles, okay? So it looks like if it does make landfall, which is right now, we're actually leaning toward it not making landfall, but either way, you're talking about some devastating winds with this. Orlando is so far inland that it won't really be affected at the most by this. We're actually looking at about, I would say, 50 to about 70 mile per hour winds in Orlando, which is still strong. That's still going to cause some damage around that area, but really it's along that coast that you really need to watch, as winds will be upwards of 100, 120 miles per hour. Outside looks pretty good here. We're in the 50s, kind of chilly this morning. We're going to look towards your weekend forecast because that's when it gets pretty chilly. I'm going to have that coming up with those numbers in just a few minutes.
And of course, this is something we're all watching because we all have a vested interest in what's happening in Florida. I know you have a brother there.
Right. I've been in contact with him this morning, and he says that they got in some groceries and they've closed the storm shutters, you know, and he's on the sort of east side of Orlando. Brad Swafford, our floor director here in our studio this morning, has his parents there in Daytona, and he says they have chosen to ride it out. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully
keeping an eye on all
everybody is safe, certainly. Hurricane Matthew has created a travel nightmare for millions of people.
And many people are trying to flee the storm before it moves up the East Coast. Others are being forced to change their plans because of canceled flights. WKYT's Michelle Chamberlain is at the alert desk with details.
Yeah, and it's been more than a decade since Florida has seen a storm as powerful as Hurricane Matthew, and the storm has taken a toll on travelers. More than 3,500 flights have been canceled across the country. Airports in Orlando, Miami, and other cities in Florida are for the most part closed. Here in our area, it's fall break and will be fall break for many of you, and you may be wondering what to do with your travel plans. One Central Kentucky family decided to go ahead and travel to Florida this week. David Sparks and his wife, who live in Somerset, were camping at Disney World until they were forced to relocate.
Just going to take it as it comes. Everyone's
been very kind. We've met a lot of nice people here, and we're just going to ride it out together.
And for only the 4th time in history, Disney World is closed. Amtrak suspended service in the Southeast through at least Saturday. And speaking of closings, there's an actual term, the Waffle House Index. You know, a storm is expected to be dangerous when Waffle House closes, and that's the case down in Florida. Waffle House tweeting that its restaurants on I-95 are closed. Now, the Waffle House Index is an unofficial term FEMA uses to measure just how bad a situation is or could be. It's just another way to gauge the severity of the storm. And for those in Kentucky who did plan to travel and are changing your plans, most airlines are offering waivers so you can make any changes or get a refund without paying a fee. Bill?
Okay, lots of changes, certainly. That Waffle House Index is interesting, isn't it? Certainly a good indicator of how people are doing. Well, folks in Kentucky are already lending a helping hand to those impacted by Hurricane Matthew. The Bluegrass chapter of the American Red Cross says 11 workers from Kentucky have been sent to Florida or to the Carolinas. They're helping with shelters and other relief efforts. They also took 3 emergency response vehicles with them.
The Davis H. Elliott Company will also send linemen from right here in Kentucky to help Florida deal with the aftermath of the hurricane. The company already has 500 crew members in Florida. That number could rise to 1,000 by this weekend. They'll head straight for the storm, and crews will be as close as they can to the area where Matthew is expected to hit so they can move in and start that repair work immediately. At 6:30, we'll take a closer look at more help from Kentucky headed to the southeast to help with hurricane relief efforts.
I want to remind you, of course, for continuing updated coverage of Hurricane Matthew, go to our website, WKYT.com. You'll also find updates on our WKYT News app. Our time this morning coming up on 6:07.
And in other news, family members of a Lexington man killed in a hit-and-run crash continue to look for answers this morning.
Police say Jonathan Adams was hit by a car near the intersection of North Broadway and New Circle Road on Tuesday morning. WKYT's Lauren Miner is at our live desk now with more and the questions the family has. Lauren, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Family members of Jonathan Adams say they forgive the driver that hit him, but need answers. Police say they found Adams lying on North Broadway. He was then taken to UK Hospital with life-threatening injuries and died a short time later. Police tell us they are still looking for the car that hit Adams. They are looking for a red Chevrolet Impala, possibly with an Anderson County license plate. Officers were not able to get a plate number, but they say the car may have damage to the windshield and the passenger side mirror. Family members tell us they could not grasp how a driver could just leave their Jonathan for dead.
I mean, a knock on the door and your little brother's dead, I mean, just doesn't, I mean, there was no if, there was no why, there was no anything. We don't know what happened. We don't know why it happened, you know, and your whole world just, I mean, erupts.
Adams' visitation is today at 4 p.m. at the Millward Funeral Home on North Broadway. A memorial service will begin at 5 p.m. At the live desk, Lauren Miner, WKYT.
New this morning, Lexington police have released surveillance pictures from 2 robberies they think are connected. The pictures were taken at the Advance America on Southland Drive and GameStop on East Reynolds Road. Police think the same man robbed both businesses at gunpoint. The robberies happened about an hour and a half apart. So far, no arrests have been made.
A Lexington homeowner got a frightening wake-up. Police say someone fired a shot that ended up inside his home. It happened in an apartment on Raleigh Road in the Eastland neighborhood last night. Police say the man was sleeping when he woke up to glass crashing in his home. He was not injured. Neighbors told police that they heard a gunshot, but they did not see where it came from. Police do not think the man was targeted. They believe that his home just happened to be hit by a stray bullet. Well, there's lots of tough news out there this morning. There is one big positive, though, right here in the Bluegrass, and that is that Keeneland's annual fall meet will get underway later today.
Thank goodness for Keeneland today, guys. It's a big year for Keeneland. The track is celebrating 80 years of racing. WKYT's Mike Byer is live at Keeneland this morning with a look ahead at today's opening meet. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Andrea. Yeah, thank goodness for Keeneland. It's basically Christmas morning out here as the fall meet starts in just a few hours. Post time, actually, for the first race is 1:05. The track is celebrating its 80th anniversary this year, which is exciting in itself, and excitement levels are going to take off here pretty soon when the gates open at 11 this morning. Now, lots of people are expected to come out here, and there'll be many out here for the first post time for the race, which is scheduled for 1:05. Now, this weekend, known as Fall Stars Weekend, features 9 graded stakes worth $3.7 million over 3 days. 7 of those stakes are part of the Breeders' Cup Challenge. Now, many of racing's most celebrated horses will be on hand for the 17-day meet as they make their final starts before next month's Breeder Cup World Championships at Santa Anita. Now, this is going to be a busy weekend in Lexington, as we all know. UK is at home tomorrow against Vanderbilt. Now, if you plan on attending Keeneland and the football game, Lextran has you covered. They'll be offering shuttles between Commonwealth Stadium and right here to Keeneland. That sounds like a win-win because the shuttles are only $1. They're only going to cost you $1 to get to each of the places. Live at Keeneland, Mike Byer, WKYT.
As my mama says, $1 no holla.
And there you go.
You know what I mean?
That's
Not too bad, y'all.
Well, it looks like a lot of fun out there. It will be. And what a great year, the 80th anniversary of Keeneland. And they always manage to renew themselves out at Keeneland, keep attracting the younger audience. And,
they do.
And of course, folks of all ages enjoy going.
They
all
sure
right,
do.
We're going to check on weather this morning at 6:11 on WKYT. Here is Micah.
It is 50 degrees right now in Laurel County. Some of us there in the upper 40s as you walk out the door early this morning. Maybe a light coat, maybe a sweater will be needed for some of those kiddos walking out and hanging out at the bus stop, having to stay outside for quite some time. 56 now in Frankfort. Lexington coming in at 55 degrees. Actually a pretty nice start to the day. It's just a little on the cool side. 81 by the afternoon. There's no problems this afternoon. Opening day of Keeneland looks great. Heading off toward the evening hours for Friday night football. If you did not play last night and you're playing tonight, looks fantastic. We're sitting there around 75 degrees. So today looks good. Let's talk about Matthew. Still looking at the eye wall just off the coast. Cape Canaveral is located right here. And you can see the higher reflectivity now getting in that eye wall. A report of 102-mile-per-hour winds just gusted by Cape Canaveral, Florida. So that just shows you, I mean, some very strong winds within this. You get onto the northeast side, and even stronger winds, but nobody's going to be on the northeast side, and that's great news. That's where all the tornadic activity will happen, and actually the strongest winds. All right, let's look at the update of the track. This will take it along the coastline. Good news here is National Hurricane Center still leaning toward it not making landfall. The farther you can get it off into the water, the better, because it'll take the strongest winds along with that. The center of that storm that you always see the eye, around the part that has absolutely nothing going on, that is the strongest part of the storm where you get the strongest winds. It looks like we're going to go off toward Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Savannah, looking at those hurricane warnings along the coast. Not only that, but you're looking at 10 to 15 inches of rain. So this area is more about the flooding. You'll still get some strong winds. Don't get me wrong, some damaging winds, but it's more about the flooding. There's no reason to go there this weekend. They're trying to actually push everybody on out of there, and it looks like it's going to loop around in toward next week. So how does that affect our front that's going to be rolling through this weekend? Doesn't really directly affect us. I mean, we won't really get much out of any of this. The front will actually knock down our temperatures big time, though, as we're sitting there in the 60s for highs. There is a chance of rain there toward the east on Saturday. It's far east, but for the most part, we're doing all right. Barktoberfest. Saturday here in Lexington. That should be fun. Get the pets out. Should be really, really good weather around here in Lexington, guys. That goes for Keeneland. Keeneland looks great. It's going to be a totally different feel, though, heading up towards Saturday and Sunday. Remember, those temperatures, 67 and 65 you see on the screen, are at 4 to 5 p.m. That's not including what's at noon. So noon in the morning, tailgating, you're talking 50s. It's going to be
chilly.
Chilly.
Yeah, most of the day. All right, dress accordingly.
There you go.
That's right.
Thank you, Micah. 6:14 on WKYT this morning.
And each morning we bring you weather and traffic together.
Let's go out to Officer Don and see what's happening out there on the roads. Good morning, Don.
Good morning. Report of a non-injury crash on North Broadway at 3rd Street. Shouldn't be a big factor getting past that one. Now, the interstate looks good this morning on 75 north and southbound, at least between the northern and southern splits. And really no trouble on 64 just yet as we get an overall look at Lexington rush hour traffic, pre-rush hour traffic there with no red popping up, which is a good thing. And look outside. It's a beautiful morning and we're off to a great start with no major delays to one of our big intersections there. That is Winchester and New Circle. And of course, traffic will start picking up from Sir Barton toward that area a little bit later this morning. We got a few minutes to go as far as that's concerned. We'll keep you up to date throughout the morning. Now back to you in the studio.
All right, we know you will. We thank you very much, and we are glad you are waking up the Kentucky way with WKYT this morning. We have a lot more news to tell you about here on your Friday.
Still ahead, investigators have released new details about the New Jersey Transit train crash. Just ahead, you'll hear how fast the train was going. That's right after the break.
Good morning. Welcome back in. WKYT this morning, live from Lexington. We're rolling up on 6/19 on your Friday, and Hurricane Matthew is now bearing down on Florida as it begins taking aim at the southeastern U.S. coast.
The Category 3 hurricane, which moved north from the Bahamas yesterday, is hitting the state with heavy rain, powerful winds, and storm surge. The deadly storm is expected to bring similar conditions to Georgia this evening before moving into the Carolinas and out to the sea this weekend. Federal safety investigators are learning more about the New Jersey transit train that crashed in Hoboken last week. Yesterday, they revealed the train's speed was going about twice the 10-mile-per-hour speed limit moments before the accident. Train engineer Thomas Gallagher was in control of the train and told investigators he remembers nothing after approaching the terminal at normal speed. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump continue gearing up for their second presidential debate. The Republican nominee held an hour-long town hall event in New Hampshire yesterday, but insists he was not practicing. Trump and Clinton are set to tackle the issues this Sunday in St. Louis in a town hall-style face-off.
Well, our time this morning is coming up on 6:20, and more than 300 employees are set to lose their jobs as the controversial blood testing company Theranos shuts down its clinical labs and wellness centers. It was known for its low-cost tests that use just a few drops of blood. The fallout comes after a federal probe and allegations the company's tests were unreliable. Also this morning, an important recall for new parents. Summer Infant is recalling its infant bathtub slings due to risk of drowning. The baby product company says 86,000 fabric slings are being voluntarily recalled over missing attachment clips. So far, no serious injuries or drownings have been reported. The recall affects sling and tub sets sold between October of 2012 and October of 2013 at major retailers like Toys R Us and Babies R Us, as well as online. If you're planning to fly for Christmas, this week may be the best time to buy that ticket. That's according to the airline prediction app Hopper. It found the cheapest flights for Christmas travel can be found 80 days before departure, and that's about right now. They also found prices this week are about 12% lower than last year's prices. So there you go. Lots of folks get away for the holidays to visit family or to go on some exotic trip, and you might want to get that booked, sounds like.
Hey, save some money is always a good thing.
Right.
WKYT this morning is just getting started. Still to come, Hasbro's newest product is turning heads for its realistic qualities. We'll show you that just ahead.
And why those 40s outside early this morning in some spots will be common this weekend and maybe off into next week too. Pretty chilly conditions headed our way, and we're going to be talking about the impacts of Matthew. We'll have all that with the Keeneland forecast coming up.
Good morning and welcome back into WKYT this morning. The time now is 6:24 on your Friday, and Florida's coast is taking a beating this morning as Hurricane Matthew approaches landfall.
Really picking up those winds right now. That's what is trending at this hour. The National Hurricane Center says the Category 3 storm's western eye wall is approaching Cape Canaveral with hurricane-force winds. Mike had a report 102-mile-per-hour winds there around Cape Canaveral just a few minutes ago. 2 million people have been warned to flee inland, while more than 240,000 customers are already without electricity.
And Keeneland's fall meet gets underway today. The track is celebrating its 80th anniversary of racing. Gates open at 11. The first post is 1:05.
And fortunately for us, the weather looks pretty good for Keeneland and for your weekend, but cooler. Here's Micah.
Yeah, Hurricane Matthew will not directly affect us, that is. What we're going to be dealing with the next few days, like Bill was talking about, Keeneland looks great. We're starting off this morning pretty chilly, though. We're sitting there at 50 degrees there in London Corbin area. More than likely, we'll actually finish off in the upper 40s. A cool start to the day. We travel in towards your afternoon. It's the same old story. We're at 81. So all looks well there, and the forecast is we're going to be really paying attention to that weekend front. Not only the weekend front, but on Matthew too, and how those two will actually interact together. I'm going to show you that big chill in the forecast for your weekend. We're talking 60s for highs on both Saturday and on Sunday there in the forecast. So for the most part, it's a good looking forecast. It's just much cooler, guys.
Okay, there is that change that's coming for us for this weekend.
Yes.
6:26 now, and Hasbro has just released its latest creation, a lifelike robotic dog.
Yeah, check this out. The dog barks and turns its head in the direction of the person talking. The robotic pup follows in the paw steps of its robotic cat model under the company's Joy All Brands brand. Hasbro says the close to real-life pets are designed to help ease loneliness among the elderly and children.
Now that's something, you know.
I know, that's a really good idea, actually. They're the perfect pet, because you don't have to feed them. You don't have to take them outside for anything.
Low maintenance for sure, you know. All right, that's pretty neat. Rolling towards 6:30 on WKYT this morning. It's so good to have you with us. We have a lot coming up.
When we come back, we're learning more about a police chase that led to a bad crash in Mercer County. The details are coming up at 6:30.
Also, the very latest on Matthew, including Kentucky's response. And tonight's Mega Millions jackpot is $41 million. Tomorrow's Powerball jackpot is $91 million. Keep it here on WKYT this morning.